If this is your first or second time here, hope you enjoy your stay. If this is your third time here, go ahead and hit that subscribe button so you can stay up to date on when we post. Now, Fallout is full of unsolved mysteries, some intentional, others either due to cut content or just, quite frankly, forgotten about in lore. Today we're going to jump into 6-ish strange mysteries that, well, I've thought of when sitting and working on a video not too long ago. If you know the answer to any of these things, go ahead and tell me in the comments. I like reading your guys' comments. It's pretty fun. Try to respond to all of them too, so let's get into this. Now, in Fallout 2, you play as the Chosen One, descendant of the Vault Dweller that saved the Vault and all that. This character is one of the most well-known and well-known about characters in Fallout because it's a player character. It also means they're one of the most shadowy characters in the entirety of the lore of the games because Bethesda can't really justify every path of every quest being canon. I know they pulled that stuff in the Elder Scrolls with Dragon Breaks and all that, but in Fallout that type of stuff doesn't work, so there has to be a canonical end to things. In what we know about the Vault Dweller, and after they accomplish their goal of, well, destroying the Enclave, and saving Arroyo, and shaping the destiny of New California, in the New Californian Republic there, beyond that we don't really know what happened to them. Like, don't get me wrong, back in the day when these games were made, it was pretty much, and the character walks off into the sunset, and that's it. Right? That's how they did it with the first one. Sure, they, you know, the Vault Dweller started a tribe and a family and whatnot, and you're apparently descended from them, but the Chosen One, you don't really know anything about after. What we do know is Arroyo and Vault 13 merged into a new tribe, and I guess the Chosen One was the leader for a time. We also know the NCR expanded, absorbing much of the Chosen One's work, but nothing in the history mentions them. They mention the founders of the NCR from Shady Sands. They don't mention the Chosen One, though. First thing, probably the canonical ending. They just walked off into the sunset, never to be seen again. You know, that's one way to do it. But we're here to speculate, so to speak, so, maybe they were just killed in battle at some point. No one ever found the body. That was that. They just say they walked off into the sunset. Be anticlimactic, right? Especially after what your character can accomplish by the end of that game. I personally think that the NCR had something to do with it, right? You can't have someone that's accomplished so much be a loose end. If they're not being controlled by the NCR, that's even worse. So maybe you lull them into a false sense of security and then, well, then you do away with them. Toss their body in the desert somewhere where it's never going to be found and just say they disappeared. Like the legend they are. Now we'll move on to the next entry here. Now, we all know of Vault 87. Well, if you've ever played Fallout 3, you know of Vault 87. You have to go to it in the main story of the game. We also know that Vault 87 was being used for forced evolutionary virus testing, the FEV. A lot of people just call it the FEV virus, kind of redundant since the V stands for virus. Anyway, now we know it was being used to experiment with the FEV and make super mutants. And eventually the super mutants took control of the complex and started making more super mutants using the FEV on hand. A bunch of the super mutants got free. They're the ones that run all over the Capital Wasteland. Don't really have anything to do with the Master's Army from the West Coast. Some first-generation super mutants would have made their way over, but these are their own independent strain of super mutant. Now, the thing about this place is, when you go through it, they have no problem locking up their own kind. You meet Fox here. He's an intelligent super mutant that was locked away by the others for being too dangerous, in their opinion. You also come across other dead abominations that were vault dwellers at one point in time. And you also come across centaurs, which are an offshoot of super mutant. I consider them an offshoot of super mutant anyway. They're people that the FEV was used on that didn't turn into super mutants, so the super mutants use them like dogs and whatnot. The thing about it, though, is the terminals in this vault talk about some of the subjects that were used turned into something worse than super mutants. Now, you could take this as maybe the abominations that all died. That may be what they're talking about by worse. Or they could be talking about something more dangerous than a super mutant. Like, technically, Fox would be more dangerous than a normal super mutant because he's very intelligent. I doubt they were talking about him, though. I think they were talking about some other strain of mutant that they cooked up in the lab. Something probably stronger, faster, and smarter than any other super mutant before. Probably something more akin to Frank Horrigan. If you don't know who that is, that's the final boss of Fallout 2. He's a very intelligent, bloodthirsty, very smart and strong super mutant. So he's also one of the few characters in the Fallout games, if memory serves me right, that has a 10 in every special. So he is strong. He is dangerous, and even with half his body gone, he's still able to, live, which is just complex unto itself there. Maybe they made something like him and realized that, hey, we can't really do this. This is bad. This shit gets free and it's over, right? Because these terminal entries are still from when Vault Tech was in charge of the vault. Maybe they killed off all of these experiments, swept it all under the rug and moved on. Or maybe they got free. Maybe those things getting free and breaking out is what gave the super mutants the ability to take over the vault. Maybe they're still hiding somewhere. Who knows when it comes to Fallout? Or maybe they were just so dangerous that all the other super mutants in the vault banded together to just kill them. Don't know. Again, it could just very well be talking about the abominations that you find laying on the tables, the weird cancerous masses of vault dwellers. Maybe that's what they're talking about. I don't know. I just find it kind of a loose end in the Fallout 3 lore. Anyway, with that one out of the way, we'll move on to the next. Now, we've all been to Westside. Well, if you've played Fallout New Vegas, you've been to Westside anyway. We all know that Westside's a rough part of Vegas. The thing is, there are rumors of a group of gunfighters that used to call the place home. They were extremely well armed, and they kept Westside safe for a long time. And then just one day they disappeared. No one knows what happened to them. They just up and vanished. There are no bodies you can find, no notes you can read, no terminal entries you can hear about. All that we have to go on are a few NPCs here and there talking about how there used to be a group of gunfighters that kept the town safe. No one knows who they were. Personally, I think that since this was probably before the NCR's involvement in New Vegas, that it was most likely a group of NCR deserters Or maybe a group of desert rangers that didn't fall in with the NCR. Because the desert rangers were their own thing for a long time. So maybe it was some rangers that decided to call the place home, and after the NCR started getting more involved in the area, they cut their losses and moved further east. Or just disappeared completely into the ether somewhere. Maybe the Van Graffs had something to do with it. We know the Van Graffs got no problem killing innocent people. After all, they destroy all the caravans and stuff. Whole quest line revolving around Cass for all of that, if you didn't know. Who knows? Maybe something Lovecraftian did something here, like the Dunwich monster or something. Fallout's no stranger to weird happenstance. You got aliens, you got ghosts, you got dinosaurs, you got time machines, you got everything. So who knows? Maybe something from the outer realms came and snatched them up or something. The reality of it is, it was probably some desert rangers that didn't fall in with the NCR, decided to call Westside home. And then when the NCR started to get buddy-buddy with Mr. House in New Vegas, they decided, hey, we don't want to be treated like deserters, so we're just going to leave again. So, no one really knows. It's most likely content revolving around some of the smaller gangs in New Vegas, like the Vipers and the Jackals. You see them all over like one corner of the map and then like nowhere else. Probably something close to that. Probably a neutral gang somewhere that you could speak to and interact with. Maybe something akin to the Kings. But yeah, probably just cut content. But since it exists in-game and people talk about it, you know, they had to have technically gone somewhere in the lore. So, it's fun to just ponder these things. So with that out of the way, we'll move on to the next one now. Now, we all know about the White Legs of the Great Salt Lake. They're one of the tribes that wants to fall in with Caesar. The entire expansion, Honest Hearts, focuses on the White Legs and what they've done to try to appease the Legion so that they can become members thereof. Now, depending on how you play the DLC, you'll get different endings, just like you do in the main game. But it seems to me in like every ending of the game, no matter what happens, the White Legs never become part of the Legion. Because it seems like, while the White Legs wiped out New Canaan, something about the destruction of the place and the people disturbed even the Legion. And mind you, the Legion is not good. They crucify people, they torture people, they do unspeakable things to their slaves. They keep slaves, for that matter. So what on earth could the White Legs have done that made the Legion even decide, you know what? We're not gonna ever allow them to be part of the Legion. Sure, we'll use them for our own ends, but they're never going to be considered part of the Legion. Like, we know from the lore that Ulysses was sent to teach the White Legs how to actually fight. And since Caesar called for the destruction of New Canaan after Joshua Graham's, well, loss at the Hoover Dam, Ulysses went and he taught them how to fight. He taught them how to handle weapons properly. He trained them as if they were legionnaires, right? He also taught them how to be ruthless to a point to where it was extremely disturbing. But not extremely disturbing by the Legion standard is what I'm getting at. What I mean is, Ulysses taught them that they had to show no mercy at all, because the New Canaanites, the Mormons, they valued their generations of people, right? They respected their elders, they worked hard for the people that they currently are around, and they tried to build back better for the next generation to come up. So Ulysses taught them that even if one generation escaped, they had failed. So that meant killing the armed, the unarmed, the able-bodied, the feeble, the men, the women, the children, everybody. And they did. That's not the part that disturbed the Legion. Them taking the bodies of the New Canaanites and crucifying them to the cliffs around New Canaan. Also something the Legion does. They crucify people. That's not what disturbed them either. Burning someone alive in the temple, the bishop, if memory serves me right, in the temple, also not a problem for the Legion. So what did the White Legs do that made it so Caesar would never take them in? I mean, the basic thing probably would have just been they failed. Right? Joshua Graham and Daniel got away, and like 20 other New Canaanites got away. So technically they failed, although they're still pursuing them. And then Anna starts, if all the New Canaanites are dead, then technically they succeeded, but maybe that's just the reason, though. Maybe they failed. That's it. That's all. Mind you, while Joshua Graham and Daniel talk about it, they never talk in depth about what happened, because they were away. What they do say is that it was so brutal that even the Legion was disgusted by it. There were no signs of survivors left that were there. The only ones that survived were the ones that weren't there when it happened. Now, you can figure that Ulysses also became disenfranchised, for lack of a better word, with the Legion and completely disgusted with the White Legs. Because after the attack, he says that they started twisting their hair into braids like his, and he saw it as a sign of disrespect toward his tribe, the twisted hairs. But Ulysses is, quite frankly, a cold son of a bitch. He literally taught them to kill everybody, no matter what. So I think something else had to have happened. Something else that even the Legion would have been against. Something so vile that Caesar would not put up with it, right? Caesar is a smart man. He's very intelligent. Caesar also knows history quite well. After all, he's pretty much recreating the Roman Empire, right? He also understands logistics and the long-term effects of some things. That's why he knows that the Legion raiding the way they do can't be sustained forever. He was also, if you did not know this, a follower of the apocalypse. Which they all have some medical training. Some are more well-versed in history than others being well-versed in medicine. But I think even he knew about this, because most people know about this. And I think this reason that I'm going to get to here in a moment is the reason why the White Legs are pretty much shunned by the Legion and only used just a few times as pretty much shock troops. It's because I believe that the White Legs are cannibals. Just full stop. I believe that when they attacked New Canaan, they killed everybody, that they started eating the dead. And that this disgusted Ulysses, for one. Why wouldn't it? And two, that when Caesar heard about this, being a follower of the apocalypse, he knows that raw cannibalism is not good for the human body. I think it's like some prion disease or something. From like deep tissue something or others. It's a whole to-do. I guess it gives you the shakes, makes you irritable, angry, that sort of thing. I think the White Legs are cannibals, and that Caesar refuses to allow such barbarity in the Legion. Now, I could be completely wrong about that, but it seems like something Caesar would know quite well what happens after the long-term effects thereof. And just having people like that in the Legion would be bad for everybody else. Because really, if you got people eating the dead like that, then it's less likely that others would want to join willingly, because there are tribes that join the Legion willingly. And it would also make the other tribes that they go up against fight harder because they know what's going to happen, right? I personally think that the white legs are just cannibals. And if memory serves me correctly, there is some dialogue sprinkled throughout the game that hints that the white legs eat the fallen. It's just some information to think about. Now, with that strange thing out of the way, we'll move on to the next one. Mr. House hired 6 couriers to do the job of delivering the platinum chip, in the way that he used the 5 other couriers as decoys, so that the 6th courier, Courier 6, your character in the game, could deliver the platinum chip to the strip for him. Now, these other couriers were given random things like oversized fuzzy dice and most likely other things related to gambling, since they were being delivered to New Vegas after all. Out of these couriers, we know what happens to our courier, right? That's the whole, idea of the game. In the game, we also find one other courier, and that courier's name is Daniel. We find him dead outside of the Prim office of the Mojave Express. You get his package delivery slip, invoice, whatever you want to call it. And it shows that he had to deliver a set of fuzzy dice. You don't find the fuzzy dice on him. The first few times I played through the game, I figured, oh, so he must have been shot in the head and his stuff taken too. Maybe Benny was just going around killing them all off so that he could collect all this stuff just in case one of them was important, right? But I just recently learned that Courier 6, you, in-game, are the only one that didn't make their delivery to New Vegas. So that means Daniel got his delivery order, got his package, delivered his package to New Vegas, and then came all the way back to Prim, probably by way of Nipton, since Quarry Junction's out of the picture at this point. So why was he shot in the head and left for dead outside of the office in Prim? I just always found that strange. And it made me think, what happened to the other couriers? If our character was shot in the head and left for dead, and if Daniel was shot in the head and left for dead, does that mean every courier was shot and left for dead? And also, how does this play into what Ulysses says? Ulysses was a courier for the Mojave Express, and he remembers Caesar telling him, no matter what he does, to never kill another courier, because maybe every courier is a Legion spy. Maybe the Mojave Express is just a Legion, front, so that they can keep tabs on things as they travel around. A good cover, Maybe it's just because you don't fuck with the people that deliver your mail, right? If it is the former instead of the latter, where almost all couriers are legionnaires, or fumentari, I think they're called, wouldn't that piss off the Legion to do something about Benny, or quite frankly, he'd probably deal with the entirety of the chairman at that point? Any which way, at the end of the day, if 2 out of the 6 couriers were shot in the head, I'm guessing Benny probably rounded up all the rest of them, killed them too. I just don't get why he'd do it after the packages were delivered. Or maybe House had it done. Maybe House was tying up loose ends, right? Maybe he figured after the packages were delivered, kill off the couriers so they don't know, so that they can't tell anyone what they delivered. Because if one of them says, yeah, no, I delivered this weird-looking platinum chip, maybe that would draw some suspicion, you know? Who knows? It's just another one of them strange things. Yes, they left it ambiguous for a reason. You know, like Ulysses, the first Courier 6 canceling the job. Quite frankly, I'd like to see how the game and stuff played out with him taking the delivery. He probably would have known what was under the fort. Probably would have taken that there anyway. Still would have ended up talking to House down in the computer room down there. Any which way, we'll just move on to the next one. Now, the last one here is a little bit of cut content for Fallout New Vegas. New Vegas was originally supposed to have a weather system, kind of like Fallout 4 has, but it was supposed to be like irradiated sandstorms. Think of like the Mad Max game, if you've ever played that. When the sandstorms kick up in that game, they are insane. Like friction, lightning, the whole 9 yards. It was supposed to cover massive parts of the map. And some followers of the apocalypse even talk about strange weather goings-on in the game. But it never became part of the game. Again, cut content. The problem is when cut content is hinted about in-game, that means that the stuff happened in-game. And sure, it was cut, but it's still technically there lore-wise, which is where it's a weird gray area in my book for it all. And the first thing I could figure is maybe it's still happening, right? Maybe just because we don't see it in a game doesn't mean that it's not happening. That there's not weird irradiated sandstorms tearing across the Mojave, right? Something else that it could be is that, well, we know from Dead Money and The Cloud and Dead Money that pre-war weather experiments were a thing. Quite frankly, I wouldn't be surprised if it was more along the lines of like a minor weather control weapon or device of some kind. Maybe it's a remnant from the Enclave, right? And I'm talking about the Enclave as in the pre-war government doing post-war shit, that type of Enclave. So maybe it was a weapon of some kind that went out of control like they always do in the Fallout universe. Like the FEV and nukes and literally everything else that you could think of. Maybe it was... Hell, maybe it was a Gek that short-circuited or fucked itself up in some way, and instead of fixing anything, it instead created a sandstorm that raged until the Gek burned itself out, right? It's these weird one-offs that are talked about in Fallout that are extremely interesting to me, because it means the characters in-game are talking about it, like in their world. It exists and happens. It's just we as players don't get to see the stuff, and that could be just because maybe it's happening in a different part of the Mojave. Maybe it happened 10 years ago and hasn't happened since. Maybe it's something that happens annually during a seasonal shift or something, because seasons are still a thing, right? Maybe it's something that happens instead of like the wet season, when it storms and stuff in the Mojave. Instead of that happening, maybe a sandstorm hits. Or maybe water pours down so hard that it kicks up all the particulates in all the radioactive particulates in the desert, and it causes some weird lightning storm that kicks up a bunch of sand or something. I don't know. But it is fun to talk about and speculate about because, well, I love these games, and learning more about them is always fun. And thinking about them is pretty cool. And discussing theories and shit with people is always just a fun time, right? And it's amazing that a game series that's been going on since like 97 still has people talking about it to this day. Making videos on the internet about it, like I am. Just to discuss some random things that go on here and there. Anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. I'm going to get out of here and, I don't know, figure out a topic for the next one, I guess. See you later.